Hey there, thanks for checking our video. I just finished a webinar, we recorded it, and I thought, what a good idea to put this on YouTube for you to watch at your time, at your pace. I hope that you find value in the recording that we have, and please know that if you see any use case for your business or for using our technology, to write me. I would love to talk. Have a nice day and enjoy the recording. Bye bye. Hey, great, you made it so far. So now I want to start showing you around the application. This way you are going to understand a couple of concepts, and yeah, let's get started. So what you're going to be able to see here is that I am using one of my accounts, and what I've done is that I've created already a couple of assets. I've created 25 assets, which are mostly related to, let's call it like a video production context. Of course, these can be tailored to any sort of department or company type. So you can imagine that these are, for instance, marketing assets, shared marketing assets. The reason why I choose to make inventory based on film equipment is because in the film production world, many people can use the same gear to create value, and therefore being able to keep a good overview of who has access to what at which time and where it was last found, it's pretty important. So what we're gonna do in this webinar now is just to show you a few like basic elements of the user interface. So the Shelf interface has two components. It has a sidebar and let's call it an action view. You can always minimize the sidebar to get even more view ability on your end, and you can always, of course, expand it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start looking at the asset inventory, or like let's call it the asset index. The asset index is the place where your full asset database lives. So this means that this is the place where you're gonna be able to search. For instance, you're gonna be able to search through your inventory. I would look, for instance, for all the objects that have the name Sony in them, and it just returns them. If I look around the columns, I can see that 2 out of 3 objects have a custodian. A custodian is a person that has the current access to the tool now. We're gonna get to that later. And they have categories as well as tags. Once I close the search, I get to see my full inventory, and I can start using filters. So filters are a one-to-many relationship. So one object can have many filters, and this is a way for you to be able to, like, let's call it sort your asset inventory quickly and find the information that you're looking for. So for instance, let's say that you are looking for equipment that your team has flagged or mentioned that it needs maintenance, and you want to find that out. You can always click on the needs maintenance filter, and you can see that there's 2 objects that have the tag needs maintenance. Tags are fully self-configurable, so you can create your own logic and workflows with them. And of course, you can always remove these filters or use the clear all filters view to get back to the original asset state. So let's explore an individual asset, and we're gonna look at this video body object. So what you can see here is that the sidebar can be minimized, and now you can see like the full, let's call it asset page. How it looks is it's always gonna have a title, so that's the asset name. It's gonna have a tag that says in custody, which means that somebody is currently using it, so it's not available for rentals or for checking out. And you have a notes index. In the notes index, you can leave comments such as used on a shoot, some of the, let's call it, some of the components could use a bit of maintenance. They sound a bit they sound a bit rusty. This note gets processed on this assets page and it's stored there forever. So whenever you want to go and look at all the comments that your team members or yourself have done on an asset, you can find them there. Moreover, the asset itself tracks passively like the location changes, which is a concept we're going to open in a bit. So what you can see here is that there's the asset has a custodian. In this case is Jurre Jansen. You can see that we've given him custody since the 24th of that we've given since the 24th of June of 2023, and that the asset has an ID, it has a category, it has a location, it has tags and an owner. Moreover, whenever you create an asset on Shelf, each asset creates and generates its own QR codes, and this is where a lot of the interesting patterns of Shelf happen. A QR code can be printed and attached to any physical object. Whenever it's scanned by your team, they will get to see this asset page so they can leave comments or they can modify it. If this asset QR tag is scanned by an external person, they will initially see a contact owner feature, which is basically a contact form. Some of the releases that we have planned will allow for you to create custom behaviors. What happens after an unauthorized person scans the code? You can think about composition of different redirects, custom fields, or perhaps custom actions that you want them to take. This allows for Shelf to be used for also, let's call it, internal shared assets, but also external assets, like things that you are deploying to your customers, like an installation of a system or anything like that. The QR codes are downloadable in different sizes, and in the case that you have printed a code and it gets scratched or damaged, you can always download a new one and print it and put it on your object, which allows for a little bit of the longevity of the access point towards your assets. Moreover, here you can, for instance, have a few actions like edit and delete. If you edit, you can change all the information about the asset, like the name, the image, the category, the tags, the location, and you can add a small description that can contain information that you find handy for anybody that scans the object to see immediately. This way you can ensure that there's a bit of context for whoever scans the code. Moreover, one of the cool things that QR codes allow us to do is that whenever there's a scan of your code, we can request a location permission from a browser, which will allow for us to be able to know the last location scanned data of the QR code. So imagine that you have created a workflow in which you say each time that you loan equipment and bring it back to the office, it is required for you to scan the code and perform an action. So all your staff has to do is put everything next to each other, scan the codes, and the locations get updated, the maps get updated, and you can know what was the last time on which device type, as in this case is iPhone on Safari running on iOS, that scanned it on the following coordinates. I'm going to zoom into here to show you a little bit more. And as you can see, you will always be able to preview it in Google Maps. And here we're running a little bit more through the user interface. So that is the asset page. In short, each object that you want to track can enter your database. Whenever that happens, our system will generate a unique programmable QR code that you can stick to the object. Whenever scanned by you or your colleagues, you can add comments, flags, tags, or generate any sort of or have any sort of documents that you might want to show there. But in the case that you are trying to use Shelf for externally deployed assets, you can count on the fact that we're going to have custom routes and redirects that you can use for that purpose. Now we get to categories, and as I said, a category is a way for you to bundle things together. So for instance, let's say that we're going to make a category called vehicles. Why? Because maybe at some point you want to create tags for all the vehicles that can be used by your company and let people reserve them and book them for usage over time. This could be done by either giving them access to the tool or by scanning the codes. But here to have an inventory of vehicles, you create the tag and you can apply it to any object. Please do mind that at the moment you can add one category per object, so you have to be tactical with how you use it, also considering that you're going to be able to filter by them in the future. You can of course delete and have as many categories as you want. There's absolutely no limit to it. We do think that it's best to think in global terms to bundle everything together. Now we are looking into tags. Tags are, as I said, are ways to just give a small piece, attach a little piece of information to an object. The ways that our users are using tags are for doing something like this. Let's say that you have a kit that contains a lot of assets like a box. You can make a tag called kit A, B, C, D. You can also do a location for it. You can create tags which are high impact, low impact, low value, high value, condition with stars like low condition, mid condition, high condition, needs maintenance, needs support. All of these tags can be attached to your objects after you scan the codes and can allow you to filter and locate things based on tags. So which is a pretty handy way to let's say find critical things to look into when it comes to your asset or your equipment database. Last but not least, we have the concept of locations. Locations are places that you can create, like for instance, let's say we have gear room A. In this case, we don't have a picture. I put an address, Alexander, or let's put Meander 901, Arnhem, Netherlands, which is our headquarter locations. And I will say that on this gear room, we keep all our shared camera equipment. Sorry for the typos. And we can create it. And now this, of course, will generate a location page that has no assets. So we have to move the assets there. What we can do is we can start searching for our object inventory. So I have, let's call it like this telex. I want to search by telex, I find it. It immediately gets added to this location. And I actually want to add a few extra stuff. Maybe I even want to move an object from one location to the other. And I click done. That way I have already selected which objects should be inside this gear room for faster location. And of course it allows me to explore the assets and the objects from another way. I can look at them from the asset inventory, or I can also look into the gear rooms, or I can search by filters and say I want to see all the objects that are under this filter, under this tag, or under this category, which allows for you to fast look up assets much faster. You have a settings area. The settings area is just at the moment based on your personal account. So there you can change your name, your username, your profile pictures and everything. And you have an area called workspaces. On your workspace is gonna give you a summary of what what kind of usage you have of Shelf. So for instance, in my case, I'm on a personal plan. I have 25 assets across 9 locations with 1 admin and 12 team members. A good way for you to come up with to understand the concepts that we have is that an admin would be an asset manager, a person who has access to make changes such as delete, create, and update the database. However, team members can be assigned objects. So you can say, I want you to have custody of this object. I want you to, let's say we make a registry with 12 MacBook Pros, and we want to give each one to each of our team members. These people don't per se need to have accounts on Shelf. However, for a faster selection and delegation, it's better for you to add them. You can add them here, and then you can later select them from the user table. You can always add more, and there's absolutely no limit on how many team members you can have. In the future, once we are starting to introduce more things like team plans and having more like co-administrators, you're gonna be able to find those settings here. So I'm curious about like what you think about this webinar, if it covered all the topics that you had wanted to see from Shelf. Shelf is a simple idea of creating the habit of having an up-to-date asset inventory in which you save a lot of time with locating assets, knowing what the latest maintenance is of stuff, and sorting through your inventory, sorting through the equipment that you have. Moreover, creating the habit of checking assets in and out will allow for you to have a bit more control when it comes to your physical equipment. Hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you have some questions, write them to us in the chat or per email at carlos@shelf.nu, and I'll be more than happy to help you with anything. Thanks a lot for your attendance, and we'll see you later.